Hello and welcome back to another episode of Goji's Thrift Box, where I reach into this box, pull out an older toy that I bought secondhand, and tell you a story about it. Let's see what's coming out of the Thrift Box today. Who's this handsome fellow? Let's talk about it. In 1953, author Ian Fleming published his first book featuring his character James Bond, Agent 007 on His Majesty's Secret Service. The character of Bond was a composite based on a number of commandos that Fleming knew during his time in the British Naval Intelligence Division during World War II. Fleming wrote 14 novels featuring Bond before his death in 1964. Since then, a number of other authors have continued chronicling the ongoing adventures of James Bond. This includes a series called Young Bond, which began publication in 2005. This series tells of the adventures of a young James Bond as a schoolboy at Eton College. Eon Productions began a series of films adapting the adventures of James Bond, starting in 1962 with Dr. No. The series has spanned 25 films so far, with 6 actors playing the title character. My personal overall favorite would be Sean Connery, but I thought Pierce Brosnan was the most charming, and Timothy Dalton the most underrated. The James Bond film series is known for its thrilling action sequences, tales of espionage, the armory of high-tech gadgets that Bond uses courtesy of the Q division, and Bond's love of fast cars, beautiful women, and a good martini.
Can I do something for you, Mr. Bond?
Just a drink. A martini, shaken, not stirred.
The James Bond series has become the gold standard of spy stories and has influenced the genre for decades, being both homaged and parodied across a wide range of both literature and films. In 1991, the first and so far only animated spin-off of the James Bond series debuted. James Bond Jr. ran in syndication for a total of 65 episodes.
Bond. James Bond Jr. No one can stop him, but scum always tries. Young Bond cuts through each web of spies. He learned the game from his Uncle James. Now he's heir to the name. James Bond! James Bond Jr. Look out, he's coming through. He's got a job to do while he rescues the girl. James Bond Jr. chases scum around the world.
Produced by Murakami Wolf Swenson, the producers of the popular Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, James Bond Jr. followed the adventures of the young nephew of James Bond while he was attending prep school at Warfield Academy. The title character, voiced by Corey Burton, is described as a thrill-seeking teenager who shares his uncle's penchant for quips and puns. The younger Bond had a collection of friends who he shared his adventures with, some of whom have connections to the original Bond canon. These include Horace Boothroyd III, aka IQ, voiced by Jeff Bennett, the grandson of James Bond's gadget inventor Q. He is a scientific genius who is quick-witted and highly logical. Tracy Milbanks, voiced by Mona Marshall, is the daughter of Bradford Milbanks, the headmaster of Warfield Academy. She is bossy and quick-tempered, but it is hinted at that she has romantic feelings for the younger Bond. Tracy Milbanks' first name is an homage to Tracy Bond, the wife of James Bond, played by Diana Rigg in the film On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Gordon Leiter, aka Gordo, voiced by Jan Rabson, is the son of 007 CIA associate and friend Felix Leiter. Gordo is known to be athletic and strong, but also kind and loyal, and he never backs down from a fight when his comrades need help. In the series, the young Bond and his friends fight against the evil terrorist organization known as SCUM, an acronym which stands for Saboteurs and Criminals United in Mayhem. Basically, this cartoon's version of the organization Spectre. Some of the members of SCUM were animated versions of villains from the James Bond film series. These include Auric Goldfinger and his assistant Oddjob, Dr. No, who for some reason was colored green in the series, a practice which was actually not that uncommon in animated shows at the time when it came to depicting Asian villains. I'm not sure what the thinking behind that was. Maybe they thought the Asian stereotypes would somehow be less offensive if they were painted green. Seems an odd choice. There was also Knick Knack, a villain from the film The Man with the Golden Gun, who was usually partnered with the character that we're talking about today. One of the few recurring villains from the James Bond film series, Jaws. Jaws made 2 appearances in the 007 film series, The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977 and Moonraker in 1979. He is a henchman for hire, working for a few different villains in his appearances, where he battles James Bond, who at that time was played by Roger Moore. The character is known for his towering height at 7 feet 2 inches tall, and the trait from which he gets his name, rows of sharp metal teeth that can seemingly bite through a variety of substances. During his second appearance in the film Moonraker, Jaws fell in love, and his character changed from a ruthless and unstoppable killing machine to a softer and a more comedic figure who actually teams up with Bond towards the end of the film.
Well, here's to us.
In both his film appearances, Jaws was played by actor Richard Kyle. Although Jaws is Richard Kyle's most famous role, he did have an extensive acting career that began in the late 1950s, with his last role coming in 2010. His other notable film roles include the films The Longest Yard, Force 10 from Navarone, Pale Rider, and his role as Mr. Larson in the Adam Sandler comedy Happy Gilmore.
Trying to reach the green from here, shooter?
That's not possible, sir.
I beg to differ. Happy Gilmore accomplished that feat no more than an hour ago.
Well, moron, good for Happy Gilmore. Oh, my God! Oh, my God.
Hey, shooter! Haven't you forgotten your 9-iron?
Richard Kyle also played the Canimate alien in the famous Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man. And I'm not going to reveal the spoiler of that episode here. If you haven't watched the original classic Rod Serling Twilight Zone, I suggest that you seek it out and give it a watch. It's an excellent series that has held up really well over the years. To coincide with the release of the cartoon, Hasbro created a series of James Bond Jr. action figures in 1991. There were 14 figures in the series, which included 4 variations of the title character, as well as 3 vehicles.
He drives the hottest vehicles, he's got the coolest gadgets, and he's ready to dive into action against villains like Walker DePlank, Dr. Deranged, and Jaws. He's James Bond Jr. on a secret mission. James Bond Jr. coming soon. Figures and vehicles sold separately.
And here we have one of the villain figures from the line, who is, of course, Jaws. The animated Jaws was a bit different than his live-action appearance. Instead of just having metal teeth in his mouth, he's got an entire metal jaw, giving him a more toyetic appearance. The figure stands a little under 5 inches tall. I'd say these were about the same size as the Kenner Real Ghostbusters figures. He does have limited articulation. This arm can move up and down. His legs can move back and forth. And he does have an action feature appropriate to the character. If you raise his arm, his mouth opens like that. And then if you close it, he can clamp those jaws down. He did come with one accessory, which I don't have, which was a bent iron bar. So you could put the iron bar in his mouth and have him clamp down on it. Closer look at the face. He's got some menacing eyebrows to go along with that jaw. There were some interesting figures in this series, some new takes on classic James Bond villains. I think it was a decent action figure series for the time. James Bond Jr. only lasted that one season of 65 episodes, and the toy line only consisted of one wave of toys. And if I recall correctly from the time, those toys did not stick around all that long. I do remember seeing them among the red slash items at the local KB stores. If this is a line you'd be interested in collecting, if you enjoy 90s action figures or just enjoy it as an interesting footnote in the James Bond franchise, the prices on the secondary market for these are not too bad. You can get most figures for between $10 and $20, depending on level of completeness, and the vehicles usually go for around $20 to $30. So it's a very easy series to get into and complete for a minimum investment. That's it for this episode of Goji's Thrift Box. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.